Hello, everybody. My presentation today discusses the relocation and resettlement of the slum dwellers along the railway track in a project called MUTP II in Mumbai. My name is Sheela Patel. I am the director of Spark, which is based in Mumbai, and we work in partnerships with Mahila Milan and NSDF, two community-based networks of the urban poor that work in 60 cities in 9 states in India. We're also affiliated to Shack Dwellers International that works in 33 countries with similar networks like ours in India, and we work together in about 400 cities. Based on the demand by slum dwellers themselves, Spark began to examine the challenges of relocation. And you can see in this table that we have been involved in a range of these and helped relocate and resettle about 60,000 households so far. Let's give you some interesting facts about this. We began to develop the strategy to address relocation in 1987 when women on the pavements of Mumbai wanted a long-term solution to the evictions that they faced routinely. However, between 1997 and 98, the government of Maharashtra had to set up a policy for the relocation and the rehabilitation of slum dwellers that had to be done for the World Bank project financed in the form of a loan to the government of India, to the government of Maharashtra and the city of Mumbai, and to be executed by MMRDA. Before we start anything, we have to remember that the history of people living informally and vulnerably in cities is that the city keeps breaking the house and poor people end up rebuilding it. Both the Alliance and STI are in search of solutions that work for the bottom 30%. For us, it was the pavement dwellers, and the work that we do in R&R is completely and totally to be acknowledged as their major contribution, which we then shaped to produce the policy representation that we did to the government. So it was in 1998 that the pavement dwellers were included in the Slum Rehabilitation Act of the Government of Maharashtra. And it was 2000 by the time 350 got land, and it was 2005 by the time they moved to Manpur. This is all due to the process of enumeration or data collection that we do. More than anything else, it produces identity, and it's done by communities under the supervision of Mahila Milan. And every household was given an identity card by communities. When we did the railway relocation, we insisted in the policy making that the community process of producing the base data must be included. And what we did at the federation level was adopted by MMRDA. The interesting reason why this was also accepted is that the city had an imagery of all streets constantly being choked by cars. And very often, the slums were presented as the problem. But really, the challenge lay in the public transport, especially the suburban railways, where 2/3 of the 12 million people who live in Mumbai did at least 2 journeys per day on these railways. On one hand, you had people like this. On the other hand, you had slums that were 5 feet away from the railway track. And the challenges of creating a solution that produced good quality, fast trains was considered an impossible one until all of us got together, the railways, the state government, the municipality, the 15 departments of the government of Maharashtra, creating a task force under Mr. Suktankar, to produce the R&R policy, which today is now used for all infrastructure processes. What is special and unique about this is that all slums that impact infrastructure projects are considered to be important enough so that every household that lives in a structure would be entitled to an alternate house built under SRA. The relocation would be a 225 square foot house in buildings that were constructed under the supervision of MMRDA. There is a downside to this as well, that these buildings were constructed in a hurry, but most of the others were buildings that had many challenges, both of quality and of design, that now MMRDA is in the process of reviewing. The process was very simple. We acknowledge what an important breakthrough it was despite all its frailties. There was a baseline survey. There were clear land acquisition mechanisms to locate land where they would move. The details of all these things are available on the net on MMRDA. The most valuable legacy of this project is the resettlement and relocation policy. Significant in all the projects is the framework of identifying communities, managing relocations, producing their cooperative societies, handing them some corpus to maintain this process, and a long-term commitment of MMRDA to keep looking at the relocation, which was very critical during COVID times when we all had to work together with all the households that were relocated. The NGO and community involvement in this process also was an important breakthrough. Most of us, as NGOs and professionals, have been fighting and continue to fight for the right for poor people to stay where they are. However, people who live along the railway track, on low-lying areas around the coast or the river, or people who live on pavements, they themselves know and we know that they cannot continue to live there and upgrade their homes, get amenities and services. And it was for these communities that the relocation process had to be just, had to be trusted in order for communities to come in. A significant part of this process and this policy was the grievance redressal mechanisms. 98% of the grievances were actually fake. In the few cases that there was a serious mistake on the part of the data collection, these were corrected and done. Many of the people who were rejected by us then went to the high-level committee in MMRDA. The study that was done by Tata Institute subsequently to do an early assessment did say that 90% according to them, 98% according to us, everything was fair and transparent. But despite all the good things that happened, we still faced many challenges. One, that although the implementation was done as per the requirements of the World Bank, many of its procurement systems, many of its frameworks were challenged by the community networks. And to the bank's credit, they were changed. There was a lot of court litigation. Right now, we can say that we won those cases, but it's very hard work for grassroots groups to constantly have to go to court. So what is important now for us is that subsequent to the resettlement, the challenges don't end. The transition from a slum house into an apartment is tough. What is also difficult is the livelihoods get lost. Transiting, moving your ration card, your electoral addresses, all those things are very, very tough. Plus, running a building as a cooperative is not easy. And over a period of time, there is becoming an institutional way by which these are being dealt with. Finally, what we want to say is that in the absence of accommodating poor people into cities, there will always be ways by which relocation becomes essential. When you bring in climate change, the impact is even more, because you need to acknowledge that changing weather patterns, more flooding, more wind will impact the fragile housing structures and informal settlements. And large mitigation projects will actually be increased as a result of cities trying to reduce carbon emissions. And public transport is a case in point. And therefore, developing more universal, workable systems that are democratic, transparent, keep communities at the center, have to continue to be done to produce solutions that work for the city and for the communities. We feel that the study of these processes to constantly make improvements require us to work longitudinally with those communities. And we encourage more universities, more designers, more government institutions to do that. Thank you.